Before we dive into today's episode, I have something truly special to share. Next September, I'll be leading an intimate women's retreat through the south of France and northern Italy, and you're invited. Picture this: mornings exploring the colorful markets of the French Riviera, afternoons sipping wine, and a hotel view with golden Mediterranean sunsets. Whether you love photography, food, or just want to reconnect with your playful creative self, this trip is designed for you. Spots are limited, so if all this sounds like your kind of adventure, please visit tourwithabsolutely.com and look for the tour France and Italy with Crystal. You can also send me a message or check out the show notes. Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Welcome to the show, Sonya. How are you today?
I'm fine, Crystal. How are you?
I'm great. It was so lovely to meet you for our little headshot session, and I learned about all the wonderful things you're doing, so I wanted to share with our audience.
Thank you. And thank you again for taking the time to come and take the photos of me. Thank you so much. They're very useful. Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's talk a little bit about your magazine first. You're a creative director. You run an amazing online magazine. Tell us more about it.
Okay. Well, the magazine is called Sincerely by Yes, the International Collection. And pretty much it's a magazine, digital, and it's quarterly. And what I do is I showcase pretty much international creative people basically from around the world. And so what happens is that contributors of all sorts, cultural writers, poets, artists, professionals, you name it, they share their creative endeavors because pretty much, we all have 9 to 5s. And then there's a lot of us who either live abroad, who wants to live abroad, or who has returned home from living abroad, and they want to share, that experience with the world and showcase the other side to them. So pretty much I started it about a year and a half ago, and it has grown. It started as just a 16-page digital magazine, and within a year we've gotten it up to about 60 pages. And the topics, it's ever expanding, which is great. And what it does for me is it allows me to really use my creative juices in the design.
Definitely. Yeah, you sent me a copy. It's beautiful. And like some of the people in there, they have fascinating stories. Like highlight some of your favorite stories that you've shared.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. To tell you the truth, everyone so far, dating back to, I think, this time last year, I have there's a poet who's based in Rhode Island in America, and she submitted her poetry that she's been writing for years, which was great. And then if I jump to the summer issue, the cover issue is Vega Jaskunis, and she writes about what she does. She supports immigrants who come into the country and they need to know how to professionally, integrate in the country. And so she offers services in that aspect, and she has a lot of great insight. Then I can jump to the fall issue where the cover are 2 executives, Pierre and Terry, and they teach us. And when I say us, I'm talking about the foreigners who are living in their country, which is France, by the way. They teach us on relationship building and understanding how the French culture builds relationships and what's important to them, the core, And I found that fascinating. I did a Q&A And then there's a woman, Stephanie Dyer. Stephanie Dyer Belkacem. She shares her journey in she working in hospitality, and she shows the evolution of how service has changed and what the necessity of creating great service, customer care, customer engagement is. And then we get to the holiday season, and then just this recent issue that just came out about a week and a half ago, the spring edition. On the cover is Shati Shaduri, and you'll see her on the cover, and her story is fascinating because she's multi, I'd like to say talented, but she's more than that. And so she is an ambassador for bringing yoga into the medical field. She's an ambassador here in Europe. She's based in Italy, and she currently teaches geriatric yoga. She's also a photographer. She's also an instructor, which she's been doing, and she's lived in multiple countries. And so she really gives deep insight for all of us, I think, where we can learn what it means, what's necessary for us when we move in foreign territory, what's required for us in communicating, learning the language. But she also talks about our wellness, our healing, our bodies, and the myth behind yoga and the history of yoga, and really how it could help shape us moving forward. So, Crystal, there's a lot. There's so many different contributors that I can't pick just one. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't expect you to. I mean, there's so many fascinating people, and those are some great stories. I could learn some geriatric yoga. Oh my God, like yoga, I feel like I am a geriatric guy. You really got to get that stretching going. So that's fantastic. And what about like the French culture as far as like relationships? Like, what was one of the most fascinating things you learned from that couple? That's really interesting how they, form relationships differently in France.
Well, let me just be clear. They work together. They've been working together for, I think, over 25 years. And, the way we establish relationships, especially coming from America, we're so, hey, how you doing? We just think we're going to get in and everybody's just going to be so accepting right away. And they really taught me rather that the core of building a relationship is transparency, first and foremost. They really believe in transparency, and they believe in taking the time to build a relationship. I remember many, many years ago being told by some other French friends that and I can't speak for all, so please don't think I'm doing that. I remember being told that sometimes when you're an expat or you're moving through the country, a lot of people are not going to take the time to stop and build a meaningful friendship or relationship with you because they don't know if you're going to leave. You might just be passing through. And just because you come and work in their company for a period of time doesn't necessarily mean that, you're going to be there a year from now. And so, in other words, I think what that's saying is that they're saying is, to invest their time, right? It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, and nor should we expect that to happen too, right? And so I think the way we build relationships versus we're just kind of like it's kind of quick and fast, we're just kind of always happy and, you know, they just kind of, they sit back and it's almost like I feel that they fill you out. I've been felt out, if you will, to see, okay, let's see where this is going, and they have depth. The relationships that I've been able to build within the French community, there's depth, and there's a genuine interest in getting to know you, not who you are, what you have, who you know. That's not of interest at all. And so that's something that it's a great thing to know, to help others to who might find it challenging sometimes, saying it's kind of hard to break in but it's not that hard. It's just you have to understand
Yeah, definitely. I think that when I first moved here, I was like, everybody hates me, but it's like,
it.
no, it takes time, like you said, and I think I've developed that French way too. Because now when I meet people, I'm like, how long are you staying? Like, I can't emotionally commit to you if you're gonna leave too soon. So, because it's such a
Yeah.
transitional city. I mean, every 4 years, a lot of company people come and go, so it makes sense. I can see from their point of view, like, hey, you're like a real friend, like you're a lifetime friend. So we're not just gonna so easily hook up and be friends. We gotta work for it a little bit.
No, it's so true. And it's true. Once you do establish that connection, it's lifelong for sure. It really is.
Yeah, and that's like a major difference too, because like you said, sometimes for us, I mean, friendships can be a little superficial or we're just nice to everybody, but know that when you make a French friend, it's probably for life. So it's worth the
Yeah.
time. I really
Yeah.
like that.
It really is. It really is.
So you have been in Paris for over 2 decades now. Talk a little bit about like how creative strategy has evolved in the creative industry. Like, what are some changes you've seen working in this creative world and helping people with their businesses?
I think being able, of course, I think we all know digital everything. And that has just opened the floodgates for people to create, and move forward with their ideas, right? I think, and I can speak for myself, I think what France does for many of us is that there's this innate creativity that they have, this skill that seems so natural, but I also know that it's studied, and I know that they work hard in the craftsmanship in whatever type of artistry that they're creating, right? And I think with the small businesses now that, there's regulations that you have to follow, but I think what's happened is that so many people have now, because you can create something so digitally, and have it be accessible to, you know, anybody and everybody everywhere. That's changed the game here, right? It's changed the game in trying and variety and possibility. I think beforehand, when I first arrived, it was still kind of limited. We were still in the brick and mortar, and we still are. And to tell you the truth, I still appreciate that aspect of it. There's something unique about it. But I think also is that uh, everybody has kind of understood that the way the world is moving, we're, it's kind of a requirement for you to kind of be multi in whatever endeavor you take on. So that creation side is that you'll see many people now saying, okay, I've created this business, but within this business, there's a lot of different, you can call them silos if you like. But for example, you could say I'm a photographer, but I also create books and I also give workshops and I also speak, and I think you see that's what's happening. That's how things have shifted where everybody was usually just so singular in what they produced. Now it's like there's multiple categories to just one person and what they've created.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like sometimes we used to frown upon that, like, oh, she can't commit to like one thing. She's doing all these things. But like you said, like with the internet and having access to such a large audience, and it's just opened the world to wear many hats. And I think as small business owners, we have to do that anyway.
Yes, we do. We do, for sure.
So, talk a little bit about your editorial curation. So, what are some key elements you believe are essential for creating a compelling content and also that resonates with an international audience? Because your magazine is international, you're trying to create compelling things. So, talk a little bit more about what are some essential tools for that.
I think first and foremost, for me, because I do, just so you know, I have my career started out the first 20 years of my working career. I was working in publications, a different kind, a different, subject matter and everything. But today, what I think is that the term that's unfortunately really overused, in my opinion, is the authenticity. But it's true. I think if you're telling a story, uh, the story has to have some type of human connection where the reader or your audience can in some way reflect and see themselves. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
It's right where before we were kind of living in an illusion. We would read content and copy where it was like, wow, I wish I could. I wish this was me. I wish. And now it seems what happens is that people are really interested in, okay, not only is this interesting, copy or content that I'm seeing and reading, but I also see myself in that. That's my story. And it's great. And I think that's the game changer, And so for me with my editorial, it started literally. It wasn't something that I went out and said, oh, I had to figure out. I said, use what you have. And that's something that I teach. You have to start with what you know and use what you have. And if you just sit down and if you've been, whatever your story is, you might have a 5-year story, a 10-year story, but there's a pattern to your story. There's a consistency to your story, and there are experiences to your story. And only you know that. And I think once you put it out and you visualize it and you just say, well, okay, this is this is my story. No one can adjust your story and tell you it's not true. You know what you've lived, you know what you know. And you have to start there. And there's that expression that just says that if you build it, people will come in some format. You will attract that same type of energy. And that's all that happens. And so I think to just help simplify it, it's pretty much that. And for a long time, we wait on our stories because we think they have to be perfect, but our stories might be like the happiest and the most beautiful, but it can also be unfortunately tragic. But somebody is waiting for somebody to write their story in some capacity.
Yeah, I think we're all just looking to connect. And like you said, if they can see themselves in the work, they connect with it even more.
Right. And that's it. That's really it. You'll be surprised. Yeah.
So, talk a little bit about some of the other things you do. Speaking of multifaceted, I mean, you also help people. You're our career advisor, midlife. You help people with professional reinvention. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, because I have a long, steady career. Um, well, when I arrived in France, of course, I went into teaching English as a second language, and I worked for a lot of different companies throughout Paris and on the outside of Paris region, and it was great. And then I opened my own language institute in the mid 2000s, around 2008, 2009. So I had that for a period of time, and it was great as well. And up until that point, what happened was that I was ready to transition. I was ready to transition, and my passion, the whole point of my living abroad initially was my love for travel. And so I went ahead and I did what I had to do, and I entered the travel and tourism industry, and I had to learn everything, and I had to figure out how I could use what I had because my background is business development. I've always been in the capacity of helping companies build from scratch, in Los Angeles. So I went into that, and then I went into product development where I combined travel and tourism with the production, and this was before it became really popular, with the production of argan oil. And I partnershiped with a couple of companies and businesses in Morocco, and we did that for a period of time. And that continued on. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. And that kind of, when that just paused the tourism industry, we really had to shuffle. And at that time, there was a lot of, let's just say, emotional well-being challenges for a lot of people. And there was a lot of a lot of talk around that and things of that nature. So I went back into training because part of my background has been training executives, training teams, and developing, the departments within companies and all that. And so what I did was I just kind of transitioned because I was receiving calls saying that, there's how do I, what I did before professionally no longer counts, or I've moved from this country to that country and I need help, because the way I was a leader in this particular environment, it's not the same here, for example, and I need help in trying to figure out my next steps. And so I've continued to do that. So currently here, a lot of Americans based here in France, are looking for ways to transition with what they have. And so that's what I do too. I give workshops and I help a lot of different professionals, midlife professionals specifically, in taking that very, extensive their professional backgrounds, and not necessarily, it's not about the resume. It's not about, you know, posting yourself. It's not that. It's making them understand their story so that they can see their identity, so that then they can also understand the skills that they've acquired, that's the in between that they haven't been paying attention to.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a rediscovery of like their skills and what they can do, and like how do you help them discover those things?
It's by reframing. It's reframing how they see themselves. And so what initially, it's a hard conversation we have because it requires you to be very, very, very honest with yourself. So we set aside what you've done, but it's first we have to talk about how are you seeing yourself, and what conversations are you telling yourself? This is who I am. And sometimes what you recognize, one or two things, is that you recognize you're telling a story that somebody else has been telling you. This is who you are. And you've kind of adopted it, and you've been conditioned to think that, well, because I'm a general manager, that's who I am. I'm a general manager. But you might not know that within that general management, during the years that you were doing it, that you took on, let's just say, uh, skills to be in the accounting part, of your company. And you've become this great accountant, and you have no idea that you're capable of doing that. And you may not even know you might enjoy it. And then I think the other aspect of it, and that's just, I'm not saying that's like the most fun. I'm just saying that could happen. But the other part of it is that you have to, when we're in midlife, how we started out in our professional journey when we were 2025, that energy that we had, we were gung ho. We're like, okay, I'll work 5,500 hours per week. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And you would do anything. You would starve yourself. And then you get to this point, and this point means 40, 45, 50, 55 and on. And you realize that not only is you don't have that interest in the same thing that you were doing, but you also don't have that energy. You don't that you to do that same kind of work. So by sitting down, and we kind of what I do is that we visit your history that you have not been paying attention to, and you realize at this point that not only have you develop multiple different versions of yourself, but you get to choose. You get to choose, and you go, oh my gosh, I could really use this. Not in a, you know, I false way. You're really saying you really can really reframe how you decide, this is what I'm going to do with my life now, because I've done it, and you don't have to prove it anymore. And so what it does, Crystal, it changes the language of how you present yourself. It's
Yeah, it can be really eye-opening because, like you said, like from such a young age, like, okay, decide what you're going to do for your life. Okay, you're going to be a teacher. Okay, go to school to be a teacher. Okay, now you're a teacher, and then it's like we change like every 7 years, and we pick up new skills and new ideas, and then you're just so stuck in your story, it's hard to do another job.
yeah, it is. And you think that but also you can't, you think you can't. And a lot of, unfortunately, it's been a lot of women, but men too. The stories that are shared with me are, for example, um, I don't know who I am at this stage in my life. I think I've made the wrong decisions of either stepping into this industry and working this long, or if you moved abroad, I moved abroad and maybe it was the wrong decision. And of course, and one question I always pose, are you seeking external justification? And every single time you would be surprised in a group, in a workshop, everybody raised their hands and they say, of course, yes, yes. And what that's saying to me is that, everybody, and you've heard this before, what they're saying is, I want to be seen. And that's different than saying, I want to be seen for who I truly am. All right.
Definitely. Yeah. And like, do you find a lot, especially because you're working in Paris and France, do you think a lot of people take jobs or change their lives and move to Paris because they think it will look better to other people? It looks good to other people. Is that like a common thing?
Oh, of course. Of course. I think unfortunately, there's this illusion. Um, and I can give you an example. There's an illusion that once I move there, everything is going to be better and everything is going to be easier and everything is going to just kind of fall into place. And that's just not, it's the opposite. What's going to happen, and you find this out after the honeymoon and you've settled in, is that you're going to be stripped down to your core. You're going to be stripped down to your core, and it's probably the best thing that can happen to you if you allow it. There's the difference. Because when I say stripped down to your core, is that you're going to carry what you think is going to be work in so many different ways, and this you've integrated into a different world and a way of doing things. Not only the language that you should learn for sure, but also the mindset behind everything. And you're going to have to start adapting and adjusting in a way that you never thought you would have with your story. So my story and your story, Crystal, is completely different how we got here, right? But,
Definitely.
but, but no matter what, is that it's either you're going to have to face a lot of truths about yourself, or you're going to put yourself in a very safe, comfortable corner where you don't have to face that.
Yeah, and I think Paris is a great city for that. I think it's one of the hardest cities to immigrate to. And I know it ripped me apart and definitely helped me to build kind of the life that I wanted. So, like you said, you arrive, you think you know who you are, you think you know what you want. And Paris is unforgiving. So, like, you're definitely going to have to re examine everything and see, who you want to be, how you want to be. And it's a great place to do that. It kind of reminds me of like acting school where, they make you like rip yourself apart to like, and so you can become a different character or whatever. It's like, it's a lot like acting school, I feel like, in some ways. They just destroy your ego.
She said ego.
Yeah, they just destroy
But
it.
in such a beautiful kind of healing way that it takes time, but it's beautiful once you allow it to happen. You, it
Definitely.
really is. It
Yeah,
really is.
it's special. And talk a little bit about what advice you would give to creatives who are facing significant transitions, whether relocating, changing careers, or undergoing personal transformation. Is there any advice for helping them with these transformations?
One of the questions, again, I always pose the questions. I think is I always ask. You have expectations, and usually the expectations are external. And so my advice is to always answer this before you start your move. And it's like, what What are the expectations of yourself? What are you willing to do within any of those different categories that you just listed? The expectations of yourself. So how are you going to put in the time, the discipline, and the vision, and all those things to do, build, make, change, create, no matter what, right? And I think where to start, if you said, I don't know the answer, I would say then you have to start by being yourself. You just have to be yourself. And I had to learn that. It took a long time. I had to figure that out because you're just trying to if you're trying to step in a space and you're trying to make everybody else comfortable so you can be in that space, you're in a lot of trouble. And that wake up call is going to come much later, which is unfortunate. And you want it to come sooner so you can stop it.
And what are some indicators that you're already doing that?
I'm sorry? What
would be some indicators that you're already trying to make everyone else comfortable and not even realizing it?
It's the time. It's your time and it's your energy. It's time because that's all we have. You have time. And so here's the thing. Your time is precious. And it's the priority. Money is secondary. Or you can even put it even less. It's not. It's your time is of value. So your time, let's say that you say, okay, I have to network just so I can meet people, and you're networking, and that networking requires you to leave your home at 6 or 7 in the evening, maybe after a long day, and you have to take public transportation. And then you have to probably spend money to participate in this networking event that you don't have the money to spend. And it's a networking event of some kind that you have really no interest in, but you say to yourself, oh yeah, but I should go anyway. It's like in other words, you're convincing yourself. You have to convince yourself that it's the right thing. The first sign there, and it's true, is that if you have to talk to yourself into doing anything that doesn't automatically make you feel like I'm excited to get this done, or I'm excited to go, I'm excited to meet this person, I'm excited to be a part of this. Right there, you're already it's your intuition. It's telling you. If you sit and if you allow yourself time, everything that you're doing, Crystal, everything that you've been doing, I've been doing, and others, you're already planting those seeds. The seeds are being planted and it's taking you where you're supposed to go. You have to be patient with yourself because everything that's supposed to come in the way for you it's going to come. But you can detour it all you want. You detour it because you go, well, I have to adjust this because, I might be interested in, I don't know, this world. And to fit in that world, I have to adjust it. And what you're doing, you're delaying what you are supposed to probably really be doing. You understand? And
Yeah.
so that's a part of the reframing as well that I help with. It's just, you have to be patient. You have to be yourself and you just have to be consistent, but don't do anything. Your time is so precious, and it's not to be taken lightly because if you pay attention to what's going on more today than any other time, people are ill much more. I mean, for so many different reasons. And it's just like we are like pushing ourselves to the limit, just trying to maintain. And we don't know why we're trying to maintain.
Yeah, it's really sitting down with yourself and really re-examining like what your values, what you actually want in life, not what you think you can have. And then putting, the time that you're really excited about into that. Because like you said, I think especially as freelancers or creatives, we feel like we have to wear all the hats. We have to, we have to network. We have to do accounting. We have to do this, that, and the other. And it becomes exhausting.
Well, it does, because somebody asked me about a year ago, somebody contacted me and wanted to do a small interview. And they said, can we ask, when did you decide just to go ahead and put yourself out there? And it, for me, and I'm a late bloomer. I'm a late bloomer compared to, I mean, many other creatives out there. I mean, you guys are doing it, and it's just amazing what people do. But I set on the fear of, you can say, not shame or anything like that. It was just that I was just so self-conscious. I think it was a question of my self-esteem and just trusting, right, what I have. And I just said, I finally got to the point in my life where I didn't care. I don't care. And I think that's you, and I think you know what I mean by that. It means that you're not waiting for somebody to justify your value anymore, because no matter what you do, somebody's always going to find a problem with what you do. And then you're going to have the other side of it where you're going to have a supporting field as well. But I think sometimes we worry more about, oh my God, who's going to hate it or criticize it or try to or adjust my voice or tell me Sonya, if you just made it just that way, it would have been a little bit better. And so when you're thinking about that, and that's what I used to do, I used to think about that constantly. I was like, well, I can't do it. I'm not going to put it out there. There's just no way, because somebody's going to contact me. And guess what, Crystal? Somebody did, but this time the words just came and then they went.
Yeah.
Because, and that's when you know that you're in your space. That's when I think, you can have constructive criticism. That's different, because that helps you. And you can have the support and different eyes to say, okay, maybe this happened, that happened. And you say, oh, okay, thanks for the correction. Okay, great. But then there's the others, and, it's just, you get to a point, and that's the beauty. It's like, oh, I don't care anymore. Okay, I'm just going to move ahead, and what you're doing and what you do, Crystal, what I do, you're helping others. And that's, at the end of the day, that's the point. That's the point.
Definitely. And like you said, people are always going to have a problem, but we don't care about those people. We just move forward and we do what brings us joy, and other people too. Because joy is contagious. So if you're really feeling what you're doing, it's going to affect other people.
Yeah.
And that was a great note to end on. Where can people connect with you and learn more about you?
Oh, thank you. Okay, on my website, you can go to Sincerely by Yes, the internationalcollection.com, or you could just say Sonya Allen, Sincerely by Yes, just Google, and then my name will come up, and you'll see international creator and all kinds of different options there. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Sonya Allen, LinkedIn. I'm there as well. And then if you go to my website, that will take you to all my other social media platforms on Instagram and on Facebook under Sincerely Biased on Instagram, and also Color Me Culture Lifestyle, Cultural Lifestyle, also on Instagram as well.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. And we will share all of that in the show notes. And thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks, Crystal. It was great.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.